Okay, it's me again with the tub, the shower stall, fiberglass gel coat repair. Now, looks like maybe I will make a career out of this job. I couldn't really sit with how bad the previous one was, and I still had my material, so after calming down, thought I would try it again. So, this is what I kind of figured out. My first thought was, instead of using the saran wrap for covering it, I would use a plastic film which was firmer, and I thought it might get less wrinkles, so I wouldn't get maybe the air bubbles. So I tried using plastic tape, but I didn't like the adhesive part of that, so I found a piece of clear plastic. It was used like as a plastic bag, but didn't have any adhesive, and it wasn't like as thin as the saran wrap, the cling wrap. It was flat, clear plastic. So I mixed up another batch. I tried to make it a little darker, and you can see the color match I think is better because I think it is a little darker. And I went ahead and I put that clear plastic on it, and then as I was doing that, I noticed that as I put the clear plastic down, because the surface was uneven, I mean it's not perfectly flat before I put it on, and I tried flattening it out, there are little air bubbles under the little clear plastic film, because they're just going to get there. And what I would do is I tried working out that plastic to make it nice and flat, but those air bubbles have no place to go. If I make them flat, I think I'm just pushing them down into the material, so I really lost faith in that whole plastic thing, so I just took it off. And before the material set up, I just mixed up some more and I put it over it, and I used the trowel. Here I have sanded it lightly, okay, and it's hard to, with the camera, to really see the surface quality. It's not perfectly smooth, but it doesn't really need to be. This is more of a visual thing. But it doesn't have those little voids in it, okay? And I really wasn't happy. And the other thing is, as I add more layers, it is gradually getting thicker. So for example, you can't see any of those little holes where those original 5 spots were because I've added it up. The color match is still not as good as I would like. I did get a little bit of stain there. I probably cleaned that off. With the fine sandpaper. The fine sandpaper doesn't really seem to affect this surface very much, so I think I can actually clean that. I might mix up another batch, try to get a better color match, and then even rough the surface with rough sandpaper, clean it with alcohol, put on, try to if I can mix up a batch and see if I can experiment a little bit on a test area, if I can get a better color match, then I might actually put in an even wider one. You kind of, if it was the color match was a little bit better, it would almost not draw any attention to itself. Now, I'm still not really happy with this product. And I started looking at the instructions more carefully. I did notice a little instruction sheet that it comes with. It says, stir it for at least 2 minutes. Okay. But on the box that I actually was using for the instructions, it said, mix it for at least 1 minute. Okay, so that's not a very good quality control. And as I mentioned, I got it on Amazon after I'd ordered it. Like 2 days later, I got an email. It actually came to my wife's account because that's the Amazon account that we have. It's her linked to her email. And it gave a set of instructions. And those instructions also mentioned the 2 minutes. So almost certainly the person here, Home Tinker, is aware of something about mixing it. Now, it turns out part A and part B are both perfectly white. So as you're mixing them together, you don't actually know how well they're mixed. When these pigments, the two parts are different colors, as is mostly the case when the two-part epoxy, as you're stirring it around, you can kind of tell. But 2 minutes is kind of a long time, but after 1 minute, you think they're perfectly mixed. But if I do another batch, I will use the 2 minute. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to improve it, but it probably can't make it any worse. It claims that it's 30-minute setup time. So it does take another minute away from the amount of time you have to work it, but that should be totally minor. Anyway, that's kind of the deal. I still don't know if a perfect color match can be obtained. I'm not sure if this particular match, for example, needs more of the little brown to make it a better match, or if that's, in other words, I don't know if it can be improved on that, actually. So that's why I'm a little bit up in the air on that. I might give it a try on a test area to see if this can be improved. And if it can, I'll probably give it another go. Because that was the big advantage of this particular mix, is that it advertised I could get a color match. So I might try it again. So that's the deal with that. Okay. This is the little thing. And the other thing I noticed on this is, on this, they're actually calling bone the darkest brown, and almond is less dark. But on the other kit, bone is actually more of an off-white, and it's lighter than this. I believe this is almond, but honestly, it doesn't actually say on it. I just think that's what it's called, but not 100% sure, really, on that deal. Okay, so this might be the last one, or there might be another one. Thanks, bye. I don't think I can hit pause, yeah. Okay, well, I mixed up another batch. I definitely mixed it for more than 2 minutes on this occasion. And then I started adding, it was a relatively larger batch, so I thought I had better control over the color, because the larger the batch, as you add small dots of the pigment, it doesn't have as large an effect, so you can do it more gradually. Now, obviously the color match is still not perfect, and I'm not sure that it can ever be perfect. This one, I thought it was darker than the previous one. I tried adding more pigment, but it gets to the point where I'm afraid that it could just be a darker version of a different color. So I don't expect that it's really possible to produce a color match with just mixing in more of a single color, the brown pigment. Now, it might have been better, but at a certain point, it was using up my 30 minutes, because every time I did about 5 or 6 pigment dots, I was probably up to around 15 minutes or so. The material was starting to get a little bit tacky, so I just went ahead and put it on. Now, because of the relatively large area, the little trowel they gave here, I couldn't really work it into all these little corners, and it's got this little ridge. So I just used my finger. And my finger, I would say, does a better job than the trowel. I will lightly sand it after it's done. And it is overall a thicker covering. Every time I add an additional coating, it does get thicker. So from that point of view, it might be better. And it's also probably more feathered, because every time I do it, I make it a little bit wider. So that's probably not terrible. I'm probably up to a C+ on this project. So thanks. I might not bother to show it after it's done, because it might look just about the same as that.